Hi, Maisy. Thank you for being here with me today. I'm very excited to have you on, mostly because your name is Maisy, but also because you are a fantastic advocate in the space. And I know we've already had a great conversation on our own, so I'm just really glad to extend that conversation and share some of our experiences and what we've learned in the chronic illness space with our audience. So, do you want to talk a little bit about yourself, your story, and whatever you're comfortable sharing with us?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Maisy Sear.
Mm.
I'm 32 years old. I was diagnosed as an infant with microvillus inclusion disease, which is a malabsorption disorder. So I get all of my vitamins and nutrients from TPN or total parenteral nutrition, or HPN, it's sometimes called. So I have a tunneled catheter and I get hooked up to IV fluids every night. um, I've, spent a good chunk of my life in and out of the hospital, navigating all of that. And so my kind of personal and professional life have converged at a place of patient advocacy, just because when you do it for that long, you get fairly good
Mm.
at it. Have no choice but to get good at it. I also have my master's degree in social work and am pursuing my license for that, because I'm very passionate about the intersection between mental health and physical health, especially as it impacts folks with chronic illnesses and rare diseases. So that's me.
I know a lot of what we had talked about just in our experiences of living with chronic disease, navigating around that, and where we had a commonality was about everything that you're going to school for and a lot of what you're passionate about and, or went to school for, I should say. But, talking about chronic illness and adding in how to handle it, how to live with it. When do you realize, like, especially for you, because we had talked about this, that you were diagnosed as an infant. A lot of, like myself, I was diagnosed later in life. A lot of the people in our community were diagnosed later in life. There's very few people who are diagnosed as an infant, let alone as a child, at least in my circle of people. So for you, it's different. This is like a life that you've always known. So you really didn't know anything else. But there had to be some point for you where you felt like different, maybe is a way to look at it. Like, when did you realize you were different, I guess, is really where I'm getting at in the bad way of asking that today.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting. And there's really not much like research or information about the difference in development between
Mhm.
somebody who's diagnosed at birth or at infancy or very young and those who are diagnosed later in life. Like there's very little. And I think it's really interesting because I think when you've kind of already established your identity and who you are as a person, and then you get thrown a diagnosis, you have to figure out how to incorporate that into your already existing identity, And I
Mhm.
think for somebody who's born with it or diagnosed really young, like they learn very early how to kind of shape their identity around it. And I just think that's a conversation that's like not really had. And I don't really know
Yeah.
like needs to come of it or could come of it. But I just think it's interesting. I think I noticed fairly early on. Uh, my parents did an amazing job making sure my sister, who has the same diagnosis, and I got to do whatever we wanted, despite how we, having to do it differently or
Mhm.
very creative and innovative with how we did things. So I never felt like it was something that like held me back. But when I was in like late elementary, like middle school, um, I needed some accommodations because I had extracurriculars and I had to kind of ration my energy and my mom was very
Mhm.
supportive of me doing things and um so she had a conversation with my teachers about seeing if I could get, extra time on assignments and just like accommodating. Um,
Yeah.
and it kind of got thrown back in my face. And there were some girls
Mhm.
who were just like spreading rumors and saying I was lying. And, I had the school wrapped around my finger and blah, blah, blah. Because I didn't look sick. And
Yeah.
so I think that, like, was really, that was kind of when I started processing like what having a chronic illness would mean as I went through the world.
Mhm.
And it really wasn't until I started seeing a counselor in college that I
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, this is a part of my identity, and that's okay." Um, so yeah, that was kind of an interesting, uh, epiphany that I had kind of in my early 20s after going through that experience of having it
Yeah.
invalidated, you know?
Yeah, it's so interesting because in a previous episode I was talking to somebody about, getting diagnosed and how some people which however, you take your illness, however you live with it is your choice. What works for me and how I use that or don't use that as a part of my, identity, whether that's my identity to myself or how I present to the world. That's my business, that's your business. It's different for all of us, but I think that it can get so easy to get wrapped up in your diagnosis as who you are with your identity. But when you're like born with it or diagnosed so young, it can't not be part of your identity because it's just something that happens. It's just something that you are or something that you have. You grow with it instead of, like you had mentioned earlier, you're already grown and then get thrown into something. And you're like, well, who am I now? Like, what am I now? How do I go into this world that I've been living in with this way for so long, and now I have to navigate it differently and trying to navigate accommodations when you were fine yesterday but now you're suddenly not fine and you look fine so nobody can understand why you freaking need accommodations. Like, I went hiking last weekend with my husband and it was fine in the sense that I was able to do it, but the aftermath isn't always fine. But
Mhm.
those are the things that people don't see. They see you like we look right now, relatively put together, able to do things, doing all these things, but forgetting that there's a whole like actual person and other piece of this underneath. And it's like the idea that you have to prove your illness all the time because it's not seen can feel like it just becomes so much of your identity that there's like nothing else left of you. There's no other pieces, there's nothing else to talk about, there's nothing else to do. But it's like a combination of how you feel in your illness and with yourself and living with it and the environment that you're in. Because as we know very well, that different environments and different people will change how your identity presents to the people around you.
Yeah, I think, like, I feel like for me personally, I've found a good balance between accepting that, like, this is a part of my life that I
Hmm.
have to manage, because there were moments in college before I started talking to someone where I was like, "I'm fine. I don't need accommodations. I don't need I can do it. Like, just let me do it.
Hmm.
I'm fine." And for a lot of the time I was. And then I got really sick and I remember I was taking a statistics class, and I had, an allergic reaction to one of the medications I was put on, and so
Oh.
they give me IV Benadryl before every dose. So I
Hmm.
was trying to do college level statistics homework, absolutely zonked out of my mind
Oh,
on IV Benadryl. And I was like, "Okay,
ouch.
I might
You deserve a medal for
I
that
might have to
one,
change."
girlfriend.
So I think I, like, took an L in that class and took it either, I don't know, I switched majors eventually, and I don't think I had to take it for my new major, but, yeah, that's when I was like, "Oh, I need to be better about asking for what I need," and it was just, like,
Yeah.
communicating, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think I even ended up going through like the specific department to like have accommodations. I just needed to be better about being more honest about like what I needed to get things done. So, yeah, that was definitely I think that was the one moment where I was like, "Oh, this is a thing that I have to acknowledge," you know?
Yeah, that's hard. I took statistics and barely made it through, and that was before I got sick. So kudos to you because that is not easy. Me and words don't get along well half the time anyway. So adding in numbers into that is not very easy. It's it's so like such a common thing, I think, for all of us is just that navigation, like how to tell somebody when you don't feel good, how to navigate your able-bodied and normal friend group versus maybe your sick friend group. How do you mesh the two? If you are maybe too sick to kind of be out in the world, then you're stuck. I don't necessarily want to say stuck, but we feel kind of stuck in the like parasocial relationships that we develop online with people that do turn into some real friendships. Sometimes they're surface level, trying to find the support out of these other groups that you may or may not find the support in because you can't find it in a group of people that don't understand you. And a lot of what we had chatted about earlier was these types of relationships and kind of how to navigate through those and just how to like find your people, like what works, when to leave a group, when do you know something might be toxic, when do you really feel that something is serving you versus not serving you. And I think that again, going back into focusing on your environment, that being able to recognize when something is actually affecting you on a deeper level that maybe isn't quite as healing as we had hoped it to be.
Mhm. Yeah, I honestly, I don't have a large group of friends, like, in the chronic illness community, and I think part of that is because I have chosen not to make it a very large part of my life and my identity, and so I have a hard time kind of relating to folks who, like, that's where they're at in their journey. Um,
Yeah.
so I have a lot of other friends, through, you know, the horse world, the theater world, book club, the other parts of my identity. Uh,
Mhm.
and I guess I just like I've gotten much better at asking for what I need and asking for grace. And I think showing up as much as I can when I can, uh,
Mm.
for those people, because then it they know that if I can't, it's really because I can't, uh, if that makes sense. So I think just I- I've learned to surround myself with only people who get it.
Mhm.
And that's a very, you know, privileged thing to be able to do. But I don't expend my energy on people who think they deserve it,
Yeah.
who
No, I
feel
get that.
entitled to it.
Yeah.
Um, because I don't have enough of it, you know, and I want friends who when I say, "Hey, I'm gonna have to skip out on this one today," you know, they don't talk about me behind my back when they're hanging out anyway,
Mhm.
or stop inviting me to things because I had to say no a couple of times. Like those aren't people that I want in my life, regardless of whether they have a chronic illness or not. And I
Yeah.
recognizing like what your own values and boundaries are, um, is really important in all kinds of relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, professional relationships.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think I and really like I have tried to I feel like when I try to like get more involved with kind of the chronic illness community, um, there's a sort of like you're not one of us. Um, you're
Yeah.
you're not sick enough, you don't look sick enough,
Yeah.
you don't act sick enough. How do you do it? Like what you know? So it's almost like I can't win, you know?
Yep.
I'm, like,
Yeah.
not sick enough for this and I know that sounds really bad, but it's like I'm not sick enough for this group, but, like, a little bit too sick for this group, so it's like
Mhm.
I've kind of had to, like, have a foot in both worlds. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a
it's
weird place to be in.
weird, yeah.
And I know, like, some of why, like, this whole aspect of us trying to do the podcast here was born out of exactly what you're feeling. And I realized when I came to the conclusion that I was feeling that way or, like, looking for some form of community or belonging somewhere and trying to find it because, like, I work from home, I am like, we don't have to prove, I mean, in some aspects, maybe we do, but like, you don't have to prove that you're sick, right? But yet, in some aspects, it felt like I had to. But then in other places, it was like, well, w why are you even here? Like, you don't have what we have, and it's like, "Well, can't we just, like, kinda chill out, be friends? Like, you like this, I like this, can we, like, have a conversation about it?" And it just was like, "Not really." And then so you kinda move away from people with chronic illnesses into the able-bodied community, and then you talk to people and exactly like what you're saying, where you're trying to explain to somebody like, "Hey, I can't really eat that," or they all wanna go to dinner or they all wanna go out drinking or whatever, and it's like, "I wish that I could participate, but, like, I can't," or, "Could we maybe go to this restaurant because they have, like, one thing that I can eat there," and nobody really cares. They don't wanna change their plans, which is also fine, right?
Just
Like
wouldn't hang out with those people, like, those sound
yeah,
like bad friends.
yeah,
I don't
and but it's like, I feel like we get stuck in the, like, this or that mentality, and when you get stuck in that, it's hard to find that middle ground, like what you're describing in your relationships, and I think, like, when I realized that I was really feeling that way and I felt like I didn't belong anywhere, I'm like, I have been in this space for over a decade. I have been in the trenches with you people. I have been cheering for you people. I have been over here. I've been outside of it. I've been in it. I'm like, I don't know why I don't feel like I don't belong in here. Like, I don't know why I don't feel like I have a space anymore. And that's kind of where, like, a lot of this started, with Levi and I talking, like, we've got each other, we've got our friendships, we have some things, but if we're really feeling this, we want to help build a community for like misfits like ourselves. To kind of come in to be like, if you don't feel like showing up at 100% today, that's cool. You don't have to explain to me why you don't want to be here right now, why you don't want to talk to me. If you don't answer me for 3 days, I will still be your friend in 3 days. It's
Mhm.
really like, but we get so caught up in all of the I have to not make excuses for myself, but, like, validate our excuses, where someone's like, "I'm sorry, I just really can't do that today." That's all you have to say. Like that thing where it's like, "No" is a complete sentence, right? Like, it absolutely is. But me, I feel like I have to overly explain because it's like, "I can't eat that because." Why can't it just end at, "I can't eat that," or "I can't be there," or "I can't do this," or, like, "Why do I have to prove that I have X, Y, and Z? Do you want my diagnostic sheet?" What more do you want from me? But the parasocial relationships and the cliques that we had in real life are still present in the parasocial world and the internet and the groups and everything else. So we're hoping that as we keep going with this, that we can have that inclusivity and that feel of like, it doesn't matter how you show up. It doesn't matter when you show up. It doesn't matter if you show up. There will always be space for you at our table because it's a real shitty feeling to not feel like you belong anywhere. Like, I don't even know how to make friends anymore.
Yeah.
I literally don't even know how to talk to people anymore. I'm just like, and it doesn't even have to be about chronic illness either, or just I'm like, "So, like, sky's blue today?"
Yeah. And I think there's, like I think there's a degree of resilience and, like, self-esteem required to, like, be okay not settling for shitty friends. You know what I mean? Like, it is hard to put yourself out there, and it's hard to meet people. It's hard to make friends as an adult, like, it's
Mhm.
especially if you don't drink or, you know, do don't have the capacity for a lot of, like, physical activity, like, I feel like that's what people our age do, like, hike and drink.
Yeah,
So it's
or
really
both.
hard, yeah, or this at the same time. Um, so it's really hard to, like, find anybody outside of that sometimes, but I
Mhm.
also think there's a tendency to kind of say, like, "Well, nobody gets it, like, they're not gonna get it. I don't wanna, like," and some people won't. Some people will be jerks and make you feel bad, but there's also some accountability that has to be had of, like, developing that resilience and saying, like, "That's a reflection of you. That's not a reflection of me." You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think I I think because of my experiences in elementary and middle school, I developed that resilience very early on
Early. Yeah.
and maybe, like, didn't recognize it for what it was until I was much older. Uh,
Mhm.
almost to the other extent, like, I was like, "I don't wanna let people in at all because they're gonna be mean." Um, but it also, like, allowed me the space to be content on my own and be really picky about who I let into my circle because I just
Yeah.
won't tolerate people who aren't there for me anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and that took a lot of time, but I also think that, like, you know, you can have your close support system, and that's really important, um, but sometimes you have to rebuild that entirely,
Mhm.
you know? And there is that degree of resilience and, that internal self-worth that you have to have in order to, like, know your value and know how you wanna be treated by other people and not saying, like, you know, "That's a reflection of me." It's not. That's a reflection of them,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, and it's so important, like, I've just started, I feel like, really leaning into that and trying not to take things, like, personally. It's hard. It's very hard because it's easy to get your feelings hurt, right? For anybody, and it's easy to feel like it's something you did or it's because of you, and maybe to a degree it is, but at the same time, it's like we have to be able to recognize when we have played a part in something, but also that it's not always a reflection of who we are. Like, I remember when I started dating and I had to like go through that. When do I tell them that I got all this shit going on? Like, do you tell them in the beginning? Do you tell them a couple dates in? Do you have like a normal conversation? And that's a weird thing to navigate. And as somebody who did it in multiple different like variations, I don't even have an answer for you. I have a gem of a husband. I have no clue how to tell somebody else how to navigate that because I think I got incredibly lucky with somebody who was like, "I don't care," in the best way possible, like, "I don't care, that doesn't make you who you are, like, sick or not sick," right? So, it's like, when do you have those conversations? When do you bring that up with somebody? And I had, a feeding tube at the time, and I had been talking to somebody and then finally kinda brought it up, started talking about it, ghosted completely. Like, in that moment, right away was like, "You know what?" Like, just disappeared. I'm like, "Did I say something wrong?" Like, "Oh my god, no one's ever gonna love me, like, I've got all these things going on, whatever," and I'm like, now I look at it like, "That was not my problem. You were just
Dodged
a
the
dick."
bullet.
Like, you were just a dick. And, it's okay. It's okay because like you said, if I had ended up continuing with that, we probably wouldn't have made it very far because obviously they can't handle it. I mean, my first year of marriage with Adam, like I was septic. That poor guy got thrown in the deep end so hard with seeing like the good days all the way to the really, really terrifying days. So it takes I think, a special kind of person to really see you for just who you are, and it's that idea of not settling. falls for friendships and, relationships, and sometimes even with family too. Family's not always going to understand. And even for you who's had this your entire life, I bet you still have family that does not understand completely because you look fine and you're your ability to do things is so high, so you must be fine. There's nothing wrong, right?
Why do you have that? Why do you have that again? Yeah, sometimes I've just stuff. I remember I hooked up with this guy in college, and so obviously, like, you can't unless you see, like, the dressing itself, like, I you wouldn't
Yeah,
assume
can't say mine either.
you wouldn't assume there's anything going on. So, it usually came up, like, right as I was about to take my shirt off, and
By the way,
yeah, I was like, also, like, I have this thing, and I just get, like, medicine in it, and, like, it doesn't affect anything, just, like, be careful, okay?" And then, like, 9 times out of 10, they were like, "Okay." But
I didn't even see it there. That was not the area I
yeah, I was like, I was focused on other stuff. But there was one guy that I hung out with, and he was like, "Oh, so you're like a cyborg?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever. We doing this?" Like, and then I, was priming my tubing. I was, like, sleeping over his house, and I had to, like, gravity prime my tubing, and he was, like, 6 foot something, and I was like, "Hey, can you just, like, hold this above your head for, like, 5 minutes?" And he was like, "Okay." So I feel like people also, like, feed off of it how you feed off of it. Like, I think we get really
yeah.
caught up on, like, how are they gonna handle it? What are they gonna think? And again, like,
Mhm.
if they're an asshole about it, they're gonna be an asshole about everything. But it's like, that's just again, like, that just illustrates, like, who they are as a person. Whether you say,
Mhm.
"Hey, I have a feeding tube," or whether you say, like, "Hey, I've got a medical device," or you just take your shirt off and there it is, or, like, you put it in your bio on Tinder. Like, regardless of how like, again, regardless of how you present it, how they receive it is going to reflect what the rest of the relationship is gonna look like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true, and it's a good indicator. Like, again, if they run at the first sight of something, they were going to run anyway at some point, probably at something even more ridiculous than being like, "You have something going on?" I see that a lot, in some diabetes groups that I'm a part of too, and they're like, "They found out I was a type 1 and now, like, they don't wanna be around me, they don't know what to do." I'm like, "Well, but like you said, like, how is it approached?" And I think about that in the beginning when I didn't know what my identity was in here. Like, and in the very beginning, when I first got diagnosed, when your whole world changes, your entire identity shifts into that world. So you now are like the sick person. That is all you have to talk about. That is all you want to talk about. That's all you ever talk about. That's the only updates you ever have. But it's because I think I got diagnosed in my early 20s, so, like, Facebook and, like, the social media was, like, still a thing when we all updated, like, "Hey, I tied my shoes today," like, "Hey, I took a shit," like, everybody was always updating, like,
Yeah.
everything that they did. So, because those were my only updates, that's all I talked about, and I'm not like that anymore. I'm more private about that, but here, or in the advocacy space with my advocacy hat on, I'll talk about it all day long, but still personal, but not quite like personal update personal, if that makes sense. And like, just to really go at it, if I look at those two pieces that made up who I was at those points, if I was that first person and you are trying to date me in that point in my life, like, good for you, because I had nothing else to talk about, nothing else to do, nothing else. That was all it was, because that's all I had. My whole world just got ripped out from underneath me. The dreams that I had just got ripped out, right out from me. Anything that I thought my life was going to be, what I thought my life was going to be, what I wanted, what I like yearned for, gone
Mhm.
in a diagnosis.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can understand why maybe like you wouldn't want to talk to me at that point in my life, right? Like I get it. Maybe a couple months in, people are really caring. They want to know what's going on with you. They want updates because they don't quite realize that it's not going to go away. So a year into that, they kind of don't want the updates anymore, which kind of sucks. But like at the same time, I don't really want the updates for myself anymore either. And I think when it's so all consuming in that way, if you approach it with somebody in that all consuming way, they're going to get overwhelmed that they don't even know like how to talk to you about anything other than what's attached to your body, what doctor's appointment you went to, like where's your blood work at, like what are you doing with yourself, like are you sure you can eat that, like that whole conversation. But if the approach like you said, where it's just kind of like, hey, can you just hold this for a sec? And it's someone just like they hold it, it's like, okay, and then it's
Yeah.
over with. They might later be like, "So what was that? Like, can we talk about it?" But it's not a thing. It's just a piece of the conversation. And I wish, hindsight's 2020, but that comes with age, it comes with growing where I'm like, I wish I could tell my younger self that it all works out okay. Like, this ain't going anywhere. You are not gonna feel good probably for the rest of your life, but you are gonna have good days. You are going to find somebody who loves you in and out through all of this, who stands with you through all of that. You will find it's a small group of people. You wanted a big group, you wanted to feel included in everything. It's just not the reality. You've got a small group of
True
people.
for anybody. Like,
No.
I don't know
We were
any
sold a bill of goods.
I don't know any adult that still has a large group of friends who didn't peak in high school. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
honestly, having friends as an adult is hard, chronic illness or not. So, like,
Yeah.
yourself some slack, give yourself some grace. But it's like, yeah, it's like any topic though. Like if somebody, I was hanging out with somebody and all they talked about was sports and like what game was coming up and who the players were and what their jerseys look like. I don't care. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
also like, but if they were like, oh hey, like this team won the game, I'd be like, great, So it's like it's and for some people like that, you do have to go through that. And I think the difference is like finding a new normal and
Mhm.
not losing the other parts of yourself in the process.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I obviously can't relate to the later diagnosis, but I think like it's so you have to let it consume you and you have to process it and you have to figure out how to take care of yourself in this what feels like a new body. And that is all consuming sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think it's like where do you go from there? You know what I mean? Do you
Mhm.
let that and I do think that, like, the existence of social media has kind of made it more difficult to not let it be all consuming because if you look for people on there to connect with who have chronic illnesses like you, it is all they show. It's their whole
Mhm.
persona because that's how they processed, that was their journey, that made sense to them. But, like,
Mhm.
my Instagram, for example, isn't about that, but I still am a part of the community. So it's like how much of those like I think social media is tricky because if
It
somebody
is.
has a new diagnosis and goes to social media to look for people, they're going to find people who have made it a big part of their identity. And
Mhm.
so I think they lose the opportunity to meet people like you and I'm really excited
Mhm.
that you have this platform, who can show them that, like, it is a part of you, but it doesn't have to be all of you?
Yeah.
Both of those things are okay. I don't wanna make it sound like it's not. But I'm just saying,
Mhm.
like, I think social media you see the best and you see the worst, and you see the most
Mhm.
extremes of everything. And so I think social media has really, like, put, chronic illnesses and rare diseases in a box of like, this is what it looks like. We're always in the hospital. We're always sick. We're always sad. And like,
Yep.
there are a few, I think it's becoming more prevalent now where people are like, I'm sick and I hiked a mountain. I'm sick and I walked in a fashion show. I'm sick and I ran a marathon, whatever.
Yep.
And I think that's really cool. I think that shift that we're starting to see is amazing because it shows that, like, we contain multitudes, right? Like, we can do and be all of those things, and all of those things are valid, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's a
Yeah,
good thing that's happening, but I do think social media is a little bit of a rabbit hole, and can
it
really
really is.
suck people in.
Yeah, and I know, like, for me, I am that person that is still sick and hiked a mountain. Like, when we were hiking this past weekend, we did 10 miles, and, like, I'm like, "Yeah, it'll be fine, like, it's just a walk." It was not just a walk. As I have realized this sense of confidence that I have no limits until randomly my limit decides to smack me in the face. But you know what? That is just how I have chosen to live my life. And it's not for everybody and sometimes it's not even for me because I learned early on that I have limits. I just don't like to abide by them. And that can be very good because it allows me to do things that maybe if I thought about it too hard, I actually wouldn't let myself do it and see what I could accomplish. But at the same time, sometimes it turns off that little thing in my head that's like, hey, you're shutting down. Hey, you're shutting down. Hey, you're shutting down. Because I have this desire, this need to like really push in to do something.
Mhm,
And it's scary sometimes for me because of that box that you were talking about that we're all in the rare disease social media world. I feel like because things are so assumed of what it means to have a rare disease or a chronic illness that like you said, we're in the hospital all the time, we're sick all the time, we're always sad, we've always got these things going on. We can never be anything more than that. That it
plus, you
that is
are
it.
inspirational.
Yeah, no,
That's
I'm like,
the other end of
mm,
the spectrum.
mm. It's like yes, I know, and that I even felt early days, like, fell into the, "I wanna be an inspiration. I wanna show you," like, no, I will show you that I did it, but I'm also gonna show you the crawling, the crying, the blood, the sweat, the tears, and maybe talk to you about how I did it, not just sit here and say that I did, because it's not fair to be like, "I did this great thing. Use me as an inspiration for all of you." No, I want you to use me as a like desire to say, if you had that, how the hell did you get that? Tell me more. I
Mhm,
want to be a guide to you, not an inspiration. I want to show you that you can get shit done, but it's not going to be pretty because it's not pretty when I did it either. And it's like, we are so secluded in those boxes that people like us, and I know that there are so many of us out there, that you're almost afraid to show the good side or the bad side because if you're showing the good side, then everyone assumes that you're fine. The doctors, the world, everybody is going to look at this and be like, well, if you can do this, then you absolutely are not a disabled human. That if you are capable of this, you are capable of everything else. But if you are showing so much of being sick, that's all you ever are. You're just negative. You have nothing else to talk about. There's nothing more to you. You have no multitudes and you will never be anything. You can never be anything. And I'm like, why the F are those my only options?
right, right. Yeah.
And then that left me, like, even mentioning social media, I hardly ever share anymore. Like, there's pictures of like me and my husband, there's pictures of my cat, there's a couple things in between, but there really isn't much else. I don't talk about anything else because I honestly don't even know how anymore
Mhm,
because of those two areas of black and white. I don't know how to navigate that messy middle anymore because I don't care so much about like the judgment or what people think, but I don't know how to present in that space because it's we've had no guidance, right? Like we are developing the guidance in that space by doing things like this and having these conversations and saying, this kind of sucks and I don't belong anywhere. So what do I do? I want to be an advocate. I'm passionate about being an advocate, but I don't want to be like that person. I don't, and if that is what you're doing, that's fine too. If that's working for you and you're comfortable there, then that, no shade, that's just what you're doing. If you are really sick and you're showing all the highlight reels too, like that's great too. It's whatever works for you. But I'm starting to pick up on, now that I've actually publicly and openly talked about this with people, there's so many more people that were relatable to what I was feeling, where I'm like, again, I don't belong anywhere. I don't have to be here. I don't have to be your inspiration porn, but I don't have to be your sick porn either. I would like to just exist firmly in the middle with all the multitudes and all the pieces of me that I am.
Yeah.
But
Where's the
where is
Facebook
that?
group for, like, "I'm mostly good, but sometimes feel icky"? Like, where's that?
I think we just found a new group.
Like, I'm not gonna post pictures of my, like, surgery wounds. I'm not gonna, like, post pictures of my poop and be like, "Is this normal?" I'm just gonna be like, "Here's my dog. We're snuggling because I don't feel good today." Like,
Yes.
it's
Yes,
not that
exactly. Exactly. And I I got really warm on our hike because I overheat on everything, and I was accessed this day, and I just had, like, a long line sports bra on. I was like, "Screw this. I'm not gonna see anybody again." And all of a sudden, as we got into, like, more populated areas, Adam and I were like, "Did they just do a double take?" And I'm like, you could tell people were like, "What is that? Like, what is that?" And I'm like, "Hi,
yeah.
hi." Like, I'm just here, I'm existing, it's cool, like, but I look at it and I'm like, "I wonder what people are thinking." Like, "Should she be out here? Like, is she okay?"
I
You
did,
know? Like, whatever.
yeah, I
It's
do
just part of me.
burlesque shows occasionally, and I did and we're usually, like, fairly exposed, um, and I did one number, and I, like, finished topless, and there was, like, a moment before the applause where I felt the whole audience go, like,
What?
trying to figure out what my central I felt it, like, it was palpable, and I was just like
That's amazing. Like,
"Whatever, I'm getting paid regardless." But yeah, I mean, there are definitely moments where I'm like, "Yep." Or, like, I went to the gym with my friend and I was wearing a sports bra and you could, like, see the dressing,
mhm.
and she's, like, a newer friend, and, she was like, "Oh, did you, like, get a new tattoo?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" She
I've had somebody ask me that.
"Bandage." I was like, "Oh, no, it's like," and I just, like, pulled my shirt and was like, "It's just that, like, I get medicine and stuff," and she was like, "Oh, okay." And then we went and worked out.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Like,
had that happen to me one time in a tank top where you can just see because, like, I know you said you have a tunnel line, right? So you have, like okay, so I have a port, so, I mean, you can't see it because it's a black shirt, but, like, it sticks out. So, like, if I have a light shirt on or a thin shirt, you can see, like, the outline of the needle sticking out, and if it's scoopy, you can because it's literally, like, right in the middle of my chest, you can see, and someone was like, "Oh, did you get a tattoo?" I'm like, "No, it's just my central line," and then
yeah.
just move on. Like, "It's okay. It's fine." I also
Yeah, I
had
I get
s
medicine. I just use it to get
Yeah,
medicine. They're
I
like,
had somebody ask me if my insulin pump was giving me, like, one of those, like, nicotine patches to get off of cigarettes, and I was like, "What kind of nicotine patches are you looking at?" Like,
"Intense."
"No,
Like,
not
"Oh."
what that is," but then I'm like, "It is this what they look like?" Because people are curious, and,
Yeah.
some people are like, "Don't look at me," and I'm like, "Ask me questions. It's fine. It's really okay." And Adam and I joke all the time when people, like, if someone's ever like, "Are you sure you're disabled?" He's like, "One of these days, I'm gonna get a call because you flashed somebody and just go like this." And
Yeah.
I'm just like, I got 2 belly buttons, I'm riddled with scars, there's things hanging off of me, and he's like, "Someone's gonna call me and be like, 'Your wife's in trouble, she flashed somebody.'"
My
Because it's
sister
like,
basically had to do that going through TSA, which, like, I'm sure you have a whole
not a surprise.
traveling and
Yeah.
whatever, but she, they were, like, doing a pat down and, like, it was a whole thing, and they were like, "Do you what's on her hair?" And she was just like like,
Mhm.
go. But, yeah, you find ways to deal with those situations, and you go about
Yeah.
your life, and they're annoying, and then they're over, you know?
Yeah. Just I think even just being able to, like, talk about it and just, what you said in the beginning about or somewhere in this conversation about, building resilience early on, and I think that I had to break so badly before building that resilience, which is normal because that's where resilience comes from, right? So, you look at it that way and that broken feeling, that hurting, that I don't know what I'm doing, like, I can never have a career. I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to have friends. No one's ever going to love me. I'm never going to have, like, go through all those feelings, go through all of the hell of how these illnesses have wrecked our bodies physically. But that mental resilience has helped my physical resilience, and my physical resilience has helped my mental resilience. And it's like, if they can volley back and forth to each other, the more we can recognize, I think, that saying, like, "This is a shitty situation," instead of being like, "Well, this is bad, but everything will be okay." Like, just say it's bad. You don't have to turn it into some sort of toxic positivity wasteland of, "This is so okay." Like, "I'm dying of sepsis, but I'll be at work tomorrow." Like, just let it be. You don't it doesn't have to turn into something else. And once you come out of that, I think that's where, at least for me, where a lot of that started to happen, where my tolerance for people who didn't like me or didn't want to be around me for whatever reason, totally valid. You don't like me, I'm not for everybody, that's fine. It kinda started to not bother me as much anymore. And some things I do still take very personally. Some things do really cut me very, very deeply, but I recognize that now where I didn't recognize that before. And, that's with anything. The first step is recognizing. She had to. Um, recognizing that, like, this is what I'm feeling or this is what I'm seeing, and that was how that resilience started to grow. And in right where this is, surviving out of spite, is spitefully living even though these things have actively tried to kill me multiple times, like, out of spite. And then sometimes we just live in a sweet harmony for a little while. Then you gotta live with a little more spite. You gotta live with a little bit more, like, kick some ass mentality. And other times, you don't have that mentality because 'cause you're too freaking tired, and
Mm,
that's okay too. I don't know why we can't just say that's okay.
yeah,
Never made sense to me,
yeah,
but
yeah. And I think, like, we get so good at making it look easy that, like,
mhm,
people sometimes forget that, like, people in both communities, like, able-bodied and, you know, the sort of chronic illness community, like, I think they forget that we also, like, have our moments, like, having panic attacks in hospital beds and crying because we have to carry
mhm,
40-pound boxes up a flight of stairs at the end of a long day, and, like, I think it's, like, that's kind of where that struggle to, like, find the balance is that, like, it's gonna look different every day, and, like, every day is, like, kind of a cost benefit analysis, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, I went snorkeling in Key West, immediately got an infection, knew it was gonna happen. Was that a smart
mhm,
decision? Maybe not. Am I ever gonna get that opportunity again? Probably not. So it's like what you were saying, like, we make choices and, like, have to just decide if the outcome is worth it, and only we can make those decisions, but I think
mhm,
it's like people don't always see, like you said, like, the aftermath, and it's like I was on a call one time, and it was with, like, a patient advocacy group or whatever, and
mhm.
they were talking about experiences that they had, and I piped up and said, like, "Yeah, this happened to me, blah, blah, blah." And somebody said, "Yeah, even Maisy struggles with this." Like, what does that mean? Like, and I, like, obviously still think about that I'm like, "Even
Yeah,
we are the same, my guy." Like,
yeah,
it was just a weird, like, microaggression where I was like, "I
mhm,
what?" You know what I mean? Like, even me.
yeah, yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
It
I
was
know, it is weird because, and I think sometimes, like, I don't know if you felt this way too, but, like, you have a lot of good days, right, where you're, like, super capable and you're doing all of these things, and even we make it look easy to ourselves. Like, we know we live in this body, we understand it, and, like, we make it look easy to ourselves, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Ow."
I'm serious.
Like, what did I do? Like, what is going on? And, like, I'm half marathon training right now, and I've been saying over and over again, like, this is so much harder than it used to be. And, like, I actively am so much slower than I was years ago, and I'm trying so much harder, and, like, I looked at, like, what I've done this year and, like, prep and trying to do all these things and even eating because that is not easy to do when you don't know when you're going to digest or absorb anything, and then adding, when do I bolus for food that may or may not make it through my digestive tract? Like, there's all of these things that go into this that never make sense, and I fly by the seat of my pants. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But I'm like, I've worked harder this last year in almost every aspect of my life, professionally and personally, and like in this, like physically, to be healthier, to eat to the best of my ability, to try to find foods that work, trying to treat my body well, but also beat on it a little bit to build its resilience, just enough. And I go too far, but don't do what I do. Don't do what I
Do as
do.
I say, not as I do.
Exactly. And I'm like, it's so much harder. My recovery is not there. My resilience is there though. That's the key. Like, I don't wanna do it. I don't feel good. It hurts. It hurts all the time. Everything hurts. I'm always tired. I'm never hungry even more than normal. I eat less now when I actually actively need more food. So it's like, it is not working, but you know what? We're here, we're doing it anyway because that's just what you do. And it's the thing that for me, like, it's keeping me going. It's keeping me wanting to do something. It's keeping me sharp in a way that I'm realizing more and more about myself and who I am and what I want to do and what I want to be and what I want to accomplish. And someone said to me the other day, because I was complaining about feeling so slow, they're like, "Well, you're not doing this for time, right?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm just doing it to do it." But the fact that I know that I used to be faster and I used to do this easier sucks. But we do these things because we find what works for us, like, really? Snorkeling though? Like, I would have been too terrified. So I give you so much credit for even doing that. I would have been too terrified. But looking at that, you're right. Like, what if that never comes up for you again? And it's only up to you to decide what's worth it for you. Like, what is worth your spoons? What is worth your energy? And that's going to look different for everybody. Even how you show up, whether it's showing up to your job, showing up for yourself, your friends, your family, showing up on social media, not showing up on social media, how you do that is going to look so different for all of us. And that is something that I think it takes a long time to learn because 'cause I'm still learning it. I still don't know what I'm doing. I never know what I'm doing.
I don't think anybody knows what they're doing, if I'm being completely honest. We're
No,
all
no.
doing our best.
Yeah, we just kind of float along and figure it out as we go, and I think the more honest we are about that, the more honest conversations we have with ourselves, most importantly, because as we start being honest with ourselves, then we can start being honest in every other aspect of our life and communicate what our needs are. Going back to what you were saying of being in school to say, like, if you were honest with yourself about what your needs were and what was going on, like, might have gotten a little assistance sooner, being honest with your friends and your family about what you can do and can't do. And if they don't like it, then they can go suck eggs. Like, I don't know what to tell I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Well,
Mm.
thank you for another wonderful chat about all of the things that suck and don't suck about living with chronic illness.
Thank you so much for
Um,
having me. It's like, I'm so grateful to have met you and, like, connected with you because you are a person who gets it. Uh, and I just love, like, adding to my little Pokédex of people who get it.
same, same. Plus, I knew like you're Maisie, so I knew that I was gonna love you because I love my little furry Maisie. So it's
What's in a name?
yeah. It just if you're named Maisie and you're listening, you're just cool and you're welcome here. So
I love that. Awesome. Thank you.
thank thank you.